is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to do something fun and muster up 5 potential game modes for the Battlefield Builder in Battlefield Portal, because my mind has been absolutely racing ever since the announcement, thinking about all the different possibilities, and so I thought it would be fun to just quickly think up 5 modes that we could make when the game launches. Now, these are definitely not fleshed out as much as they could be. I purposely tried to think up just 5 really quick game modes rather than sort of fleshing them out too much, so there's definitely some room for improvement, but I think I'll save those more thought out game modes until the game actually drops, because we generally just don't know the potential of it just yet. One thing that I was talking to Sage about on the Battlefield show, which if you're not listening to the Battlefield show, then be sure to check that out. We've run a weekly podcast over on Sage's channel and the links are down in the description. But yeah, what I was saying to Sage was that I think we really just have no idea how powerful the Battlefield Builder is going to be. We're going to be thinking up the most basic game modes ever compared to what we can actually build, because it will take people probably months to learn how strong the tools are. So if you came back to this video and watched it in like a year from now, then these modes probably sound absolutely terrible just because of how advanced people are going to get with these modes in the future, but at least for now they definitely sound like a bit of fun to me. So anyway, getting into the first potential game mode, and this one would be called Eyes on the Skies. There would be one team on the ground, which would probably be any amount of players, but let's just say 20 players for now, and these guys would only be able to use RPGs, and the map would be a smaller area which DICE and Ripple Effect have actually added into the game already, so you don't have to choose an entire large scale map, rather you can just choose like small sections of each map, so the troopers would be sort of all gathered up in a fairly small area. For the other team, it would be one single pilot flying a Spitfire from World War II, and obviously he'd be able to try and strafe run these enemies on the ground at the risk of being shot down by those RPGs. Now, there are multiple ways that you could probably do this mode. You could give the pilot, say, 5 lives and give the troopers about 100 lives and see if the pilot could beat them, or if we were to do this on stream, for example, you could do it to where the troopers have like 1,000 lives and then the pilot only has 1, and we just get one go at being the pilot to see who can get the most kills before dying, and then obviously at the end of the stream, the player who got the most kills wins. You could toy around with those scoring settings a ton and really just change the dynamic of the game, but I think it would be so much fun to just have 20 troopers on the ground who are essentially just sitting ducks for this Spitfire, and the Spitfire pilot has to just strafe run and see how many he can pick off, but obviously if he gets too close, then there's a higher chance of being hit by a stray RPG. So that sounds like a heap of fun to me, and I can already see us playing something like this on stream. So that is potential game mode number 1. Moving on to the next potential game mode, and this one is a simple game of tag or chasey, depending on what you call it where you come from. This game mode would consist of 2 teams once again, one team being one single player with either a knife, or you could do something funny like a defib for example, and then the other team would have absolutely no weapons or gadgets or anything, just their bare hands if that is allowed in the game anyway, and then just reduce their damage output as low as possible so that they can't actually deal any damage. Now, the player who's it would have to chase the other players around and try and essentially kill them, and then when you do tag someone, you'd obviously switch roles. They would get the knife or whatever weapon you choose, and then you'd be pretty much placed on the other team and have to try and run away. This would obviously have to be done on a smaller map again, and it might need some sort of finer tuning to sort of make it a bit easier for the one doing the tagging, because it could be super hard to even catch anyone. But I've seen a version of this in Gary's mod before, and it looks like so much fun, so I would love to see how it plays out in Battlefield 2042. I think ideally you'd have like a 5 or so minute timer, and then whoever's tagged at the end of the game is actually the loser of the match, so you pretty much just need to survive as long as you can, or even if you're it for the entire game and then just tag someone right at the end, you can save yourself from losing. So yeah, I think this would be hilarious to see in game, and like I said, for the last mode, I can definitely see us playing this one on stream and just having an absolute laugh at how stupid it is. Now, moving on to the third mode, this one would be called Against All Odds, and this would actually be a variation of Rush, with one team having say 4 players and the other team having 32 players. Now, this one is actually pretty similar to the mode that Gabbytron made for the EA Play video, but it is just kind of taking it to the next level to make it even more chaotic and funny. I'm not sure how balanced it would be, but I know for a fact this would be an absolute laugh to play. Now, the attacking team would be the team with 4 players, although really you could just do this on offense or defense and it would be a heap of fun, but for the sake of this video, let's just say the attacking team is the team with only 4 players. These players would be the 2042 specialists, and they can choose whichever specialist they want, as well as being able to use any loadout that they want as well. So yeah, this team would have complete freedom. The other team, however, is only allowed defibrillators, but like I said, they have 32 players and they've got to defend the objectives in the smartest way that they can. This team could either play really aggressive and just try and pretty much rush the hell out of the enemy team and keep them back, or they could just sit right on the objectives and try to make the most of those close quarters and pretty much all just swarm the attacking team when they do get close to the objectives. Now, like I said, that is sort of fairly similar to Gabbytron's mode, so to change it up even more, you could switch the roles and have the 4 players defending the MCOMs from those 32 players with defibs, and I think this would be arguably even funnier to see because I can just imagine the stress of trying to defend 32 players who are just full sending at you with defibs. I reckon that would just be an absolute blast, and I'm sure it would probably be fairly unbalanced, but I think that's the fun of it, to be honest. I think so many modes that we make are going to be purely for the fun rather than for the actual competitive gameplay. Now, moving on to the 4th mode, and this one would be called the Amazing Race, and as the name suggests, this one would entail a race between however many players that you want, but they're all using rangers, which are the robot dogs, and essentially the whole objective is to just gather on one side of the map, choose a finish line on the other side, and it is essentially just a race to the other side of the map. Now, it sounds pretty boring at face value, but let me get into it a bit more because there is actually a fair bit of depth that goes into this mode. Obviously, the rangers can shoot and stuff like that, so I think what you would have to do is increase all of their health by like 1000% or something and make them all really tanky, because part of the race is actually that you can take out the enemy rangers to pretty much sabotage the race for them, and if you do happen to get killed, then you are out of the race for good. So it's not only a race, but it is essentially survival of the fittest. You could just try and sprint ahead of everyone and sort of lead the pack in order to be the first one there, but the thing is, if you are out in front, everyone is probably going to be targeting you, and you pretty much run the risk of dying a lot more than if you're in the middle of the pack. So there would be a fair bit of strategy involved rather than just simply running in a straight line from one side of the map to the other. Do you sit in the middle of the pack and play it safe until the end? Do you rush out in front and try to just risk being targeted? Or do you even just take a bit of a longer pathway to the end but remove the risk of being killed, since no one will probably follow you? There are so many ways that you could play this mode, and I think it would actually be so much more enjoyable than it probably sounds at face value. I can imagine setting this one up on stream. I would probably get into like a little bird and essentially be like the cameraman hovering above the pack and seeing the action unfold while all of you guys run the race of your life and see who can get to the end the fastest. I think races like this, even just with regular vehicles, are going to be some of the fan favourite modes in Battlefield Portal, and I cannot wait to see what people come up with. Now, the last mode for this video is going to be called a Race Through Time, and that is called that because this is going to be a huge version of Gun Game with every single weapon in the game, and this would be a free-for-all version of Gun Game rather than a team version. For those who maybe haven't played Gun Game before, it's pretty much a mode where everyone starts with the same weapon, usually a pistol or something a bit on the weaker side, and each time you get a kill, your weapon actually changes to the next weapon on the list. Now, usually it's just like 20 weapons in most games. For example, Call of Duty has 20 weapons to go through, so pretty much the first player to get 20 kills, one with each weapon, ends up being the winner. Now, the reason behind the name A Race Through Time is because usually it goes from some of the weaker weapons, and as you sort of get more and more kills, you start moving up to shotguns and then SMGs and ARs, but then the final weapon is always a really hard one. Rather than doing it in that typical fashion though, this one would go through each era rather than from hardest to easiest. So you would start out with the 1942 weapons, going from some of the pistols through to the SMGs and ARs like normal, and then probably like the bazooka or something would be the final weapon for 1942, but then it would move on to Bad Company 2, so you'd go back to the pistol again and have to climb back up through the Bad Company 2 weapons, and then same goes for Battlefield 3 before finally going through all of the Battlefield 2042 weapons. This would obviously take a hell of a long time. I'm guessing there's going to be like 70 or 80 weapons all up across, you know, all 4 games, so these matches would probably be like half an hour, but I think it would be pretty awesome to have like the ultimate gun game with all eras and stuff like that. I don't really think it would be quite as fun to play on repeat like the smaller gun game modes are, but I think it would be fun for a few games here and there, so that is my 5th and final potential game mode. Like I said, these are literally just like 5 of the first things that came to mind when I sat down to plan this video, so they're definitely not very fleshed out yet, but I think they'd all be a heap of fun to play with you guys on stream when the game comes out, and I already know that I will be doing like Battlefield Portal Fridays or something where we just jump on once a week and play some absolutely ridiculous game modes, so I cannot wait to get my hands on Battlefield Portal. I'm curious to hear what you guys are thinking up for some game modes as well, so feel free to leave a few of your own game mode ideas down in the comments, and let me know what you guys think of the ones in this video too. I'm curious to see whether you guys think they would be fun to play. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.